Boy, there's some good hard stuff down there. Good hard stuff in there. Man, this one's got strength. This fish has got some power here. Good fish. Get in here. That's a thick one there. Hey everybody, this is the North Rhodes Outdoors video blog. I am Tory Rhodes and I am targeting largemouth bass, fat girls with the Carolina rig. We're gonna go through a little bit of a technique as far as rod, reel, line, hook, all the setup of a Carolina rig, how to fish it, and what a bite feels like and how to set the hook. We're gonna cover it all with the Carolina rig today. I use this bait a lot. When you're throwing a Carolina rig, I'm gonna be using a minimum of a medium heavy 7-foot rod, bait casting of course. Now the best reason why is because when you got that long leader, you need that long rod to be able to sweep that cast out there. Boom, I just got nailed and I missed it. So anyway, you need a long rod when you're doing this for two reasons. One, so you can cast it because you got the long leader length. And the second reason is because if you got any slack when you're dragging this thing, you need a long rod to pick up that slack line and be able to sweep and set the hook on these fish. Now, as far as the bite, when you're dragging on the bottom, a lot of times it's just gonna feel like you're dragging it. And when you get a bite, just like that, what happens is, well, let me get this fish in, then I'm gonna explain what a bite feels like when you're using a Carolina rig. There's a baby. So when you're using a rig and you get a bite, imagine this. Just stick your finger out and imagine somebody just lightly tips your finger like that, just bumps it. That is what a bite is gonna feel like. So when your hand is on that rod, I extend my finger out, that's just how I like to hold it, but that rod is an extension of your finger. And when you're dragging on weeds or sand or rock, you can tell the difference. It's like dragging weight or dragging a leaf or dragging weeds. It's just kind of mushy. But a lot of times when you get a bite, the difference between a rock and a bite is that when a fish hits it, you just feel that little tick and you pull back on that rod tip gently and you're gonna feel something either doom pull back on you, or you're just gonna feel like something's trying to swim away with your line. That's how it feels. It's a different kind of feel if you've never thrown a Carolina rig before. So just imagine that your finger is an extension of your rod tip and somebody just taps the tip of your finger. And then you got weight, swimming action of your line, or the continuous doom. All right, let's talk about the Carolina rig setup. Like I said, I got a 7-foot medium heavy rod. It's got a fairly light tip. I want that light tip, number one, so I can get a lot of momentum to make a long cast. And it just allows me to feel the bottom when I got a light tip on that. But the butt section of this rod is really strong to drive that hook through the cheek. If you're doing it right, you're gonna hook those fish right in the cheek when you're using this rig. So let's talk about the line and the sinker. 16-pound fluorocarbon is pretty standard for almost everything that I use. That's what's on the main line, and I'm also following it up with the 16-pound fluorocarbon leader. My leader length, I vary that. Sometimes I go 18 inches, sometimes 24. This is probably a 3-foot leader right here. And change that based on the cover. If you're dealing with a lot of wood or if you got a lot of rock, the shorter the leader is usually less likely to get hung up. Terminal tackle. It's going to consist of a clacker, a bead, a weight, a swivel, and a hook. I very often use a 3/8 ounce weight. On the lakes and rivers that I fish, there's usually no current and no depth that's going to require a heavier weight than 3/8. That's just a pretty standard guideline to start with. Tungsten. You can feel the bottom a lot better with tungsten than you can lead. Now, I was talking about this bead. I have that bead in there for one reason. When the weight smacks into this bead, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's going to make a noise. It's basically a noise maker that's going to attract some fish. This last little bit, the reason I have that there is because this piece is going to protect my knot on my swivel, okay? I use a small little 1/0 wide gap hook. It's an owner hook. The reason I use a tiny little 1/0 is because I got turned on to that hook a couple years ago. Ben Petrosky was throwing that, and he was never losing fish. We were fishing tournaments together, and I was using a different kind of hook, and I was losing some, and he never lost it with that little tiny hook. Always had him hooked right in the cheek, and that just made me a believer. So they can suck that thing in. The smaller hook provides the best action, I think, for your bait. I don't know how many times I can hammer home green pumpkin lizard, green pumpkin lizard, green pumpkin lizard. That is what keeps it simple, and that is my Carolina rig bait. 6-inch. What I'm going to do is just set it up like a Texas rig. You hook it right through the nose. You go about 1/4 inch. You've seen this 1,000 times on other TV shows. You push it all the way up. I want my bait to go over top of the knot. I'm going to push it down so it's straight on the hook like that. Then I'm going to bring this back, poke the hook through. I don't come all the way through because I don't need to. That hook will drive through when I set the hook, and you got them. So that lays straight. That is going to smoke your bass. Lakes and rivers, Wisconsin and Minnesota, that's your Carolina rig setup. There's a big school of fish here, so I should get a bite right away here. That's solid weed right there. So when you get a bite on a rig, what you want to do is you want to sweep your rod tip like that. When you sweep your rod tip, that's the best way to set the hook. You don't want to set it up like you're throwing a jig or a worm. You sweep it. That's the best way to pick up line and drive that hook through the side of that fish's cheek. That's a good one. Just tossed my lizard. If you have any questions about Carolina rigs, why don't you get on that little tab on the upper left side of the screen right now. Looks like a little pop-up window, tiny little number in there, might say 0, 1, 2, or 3. Click in the middle of that tiny little window. Send me a question to the North Roads Outdoors video blog if you have any questions about the rig, and we'll get those answers out to you. So that is rigging with North Roads Outdoors. I am out.